Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share the story and let people know a little bit more about me. My background, grew up on a farm over in Scott County, Virginia, so I know farm life, know hard work, and grew up in a little area just across the ridge from Clinchport. And so growing up on a farm all my life, and went to Rye Cove High School. And there, I guess you could say that one of the neat things about high school, you had all the wonderful high school memories, and of course mine was sports and playing football. And so I reckon I got pretty good at knocking people down. So that's how I ended up at Emory. And so Emory was like, "Hey, we like the way you play football, so come play for us." But you grew up in a very rural setting, and so I think that growing up on a farm teaches you a lot of life lessons, and the hard work, the determination, but also learning about growth. One thing about farm life is you don't get things just right away. If you plant a garden, it takes a while to grow. If you're going to cultivate any of your crops, if you're going to work and raise cattle, anything like that, it takes time. And so it teaches some good lessons of patience and some lessons of determination, but also you get to reap the reward of your hard work. And that's one of the things that I really carry through life, especially in the athletic arena. And so I've been one of the few people, in fact, I guess still only the only person in Rye Cove history to have made all-state team both my junior and senior years. So, and it's not boasting myself. It's just that's what you do when you work hard, and you're recognized for that. And but also graduated and went on to Emory, and that was a tremendous and a magnificent time of life to the college life. And so Emory wasn't too far away, but it's just far enough away from home to really explore that independence. And the neat thing about Emory life is it's so endowed with community and service, and it's all about people, and that's the great thing about Emory.
And let's talk about the Virginia State Police for a short second.
Sure.
Tell us about your experiences with VSP.
My first assignment after the academy, I was stationed there in 1st Division in Richmond and worked Interstate 64. I had the long, boring stretch between Charlottesville and Richmond, so if you ever drive out that way, and that's grown up some over the years, obviously, but that was the beginning of, I think, I'd like to think, a successful career. Law enforcement has certainly changed. We know that. Even it changes every day. And law enforcement these days, it's not what it used to be 20 years ago, which is different than what it was 50 years ago. I had several personal goals, things I wanted to do within the department, and so I got to achieve a lot of those. I love to teach, so I'd always want to become an instructor, which I did. And I was fortunate to go back to the academy to work with their junior law cadet program that the American Legion sponsors, to work with young people and be able to work with them during the summertime, to teach at our academy, to train to be a field training officer. I was received a lot of awards for service. We did a hurricane duty, was what we'd call it. And so my very, very first assignment that was on a massive level was I hadn't been out of the academy very long. Get a call from dispatch to call the first sergeant. "Hey, first sergeant, what's up?" And he said, "Go to the house, pack your bags for enough clothes for at least 3 days, and then report to Chesapeake headquarters." Okay, and I'm out of the academy. I didn't know to ask why. You did what your first sergeant did. So I'm like, "Yes, sir." So I go, I grab my stuff, I call my wife, say, "Hey, first sergeant said I'm reporting to Chesapeake. I got to go. I don't know what's going on." They didn't say, but I got closed for 3 days, and I'll be back when I get back. So it kind of freaked her out.
Yeah.
She was at work. So, okay. Love you. I was like, "Love you, baby." And see, so and he said, report there as soon as possible. Well, at the time I got to the academy, I had a 1995 Chevrolet Caprice. They had the LT1 Corvette engine, and that car would scream. I mean, it was beautiful, that blue and gray. I mean, it was a magnificent car. And so here I'm going to Chesapeake. I'd never been to Chesapeake, had no idea where I was going, but I'm thinking, I'm state police, I got this. I figured that. Didn't have a clue. So I'm as hard as I can heading toward Chesapeake because first sergeant said to go. And so I see another unit come up alongside. I get on the radio. I said, "Hey," I said, "Are you going to Chesapeake?" "Yeah, I'm going to Chesapeake." Can I follow you? Yeah, okay, you follow me. Do you know where you're going? Yeah, I think I know where I'm going. I said, fine, we'll go. So we act like we knew where. We get Chesapeake headquarters. And so we show up, we're like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? You guys are going over to the eastern shore. Hurricane Bertha is going to make landfall in several hours, and so we need you to go to patrol Route 13 on the eastern shore. Okay, hold on here, Sarge. Let's get this straight. We got a major hurricane going to make landfall on the eastern shore, a little piece of land sitting out in the ocean, and we're going to go patrol.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, what are we going to do there? And so, like, you're there to assist and to aid and whatever they need you for. I'm like, all right. So that's what we did for 3 days. We patrolled and hurricane force winds and rain, and I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
You know. So that was one of the first experiences. I'm like, all right, cool. This is you get more than what you pay for it. So. Yeah. I thought that, that was a great experience, and those assignments like that, the governor's inaugurations, it really brought in that camaraderie. Even if you met another trooper from the other side of the state, you had that commonality because of your training and because of that family atmosphere. But some of the most horrific times that we ever experienced in law enforcement, of course, the death of children. That's very, very powerful. And that kind of prompted me to get into a lot of my background is in crisis management and trauma counseling, because how do you help somebody go through the horrendous sights that you see, and so there's a lot of personal battles there that caused me to say, you know what, this is about helping people. And so from that aspect, the fatalities with the children and all the things that you see, the burned up bodies, all the nasty stuff of humanity that we really don't tend to think about. Then Virginia Tech came along, and the massacre at Virginia Tech. And my first shift there, when we got called in, it was again one of those calls went out, everybody report. And we got there, and it was just just that vibe, that sense of grief and dread and anxiety and all that. But my first shift was 37 hours long, and we got there on scene that Monday, and my role going in was to do crisis debriefings, to work with the guys that's working the crime scenes. But I got diverted because I do a lot of ministry as well, and so my role as a department chaplain at the time got diverted to do death notifications. So it's an unimaginable thing that you go in and have to tell a mom and a dad, I'm sorry, but your child was killed today at school. Yeah. And so when you do that, it really causes you to take a step back and see life a little differently. Yeah. That's one of the things that's really driving me now, even today in running for sheriff. It's because I know the hard things that these guys have to go through. And so I want to be there to care for them. I've got some good plans in place that to really help our guys internally within the department, but also their families, because many times the spouses, the loved ones get left behind. We want to care for that officer, but what about those who love that officer as well? And so I think that has got to be one of our top of the list things to do, is to really care for the people. The stronger that we are internally as an agency, the better off we are to take care of the needs of the community. It's kind of hard to go out here and help people if you yourself are struggling so much, or you're having a hard time at home, or whatever it may be. And it doesn't have to be emotional trauma. I mean, hey, what if you have a situation at home? What if you come into work and you're that strong deputy and that officer, or and you're coming to work, but hey, you just found out that maybe your dad's got cancer. What if you find out that now your child has something going on that you really need that time at home? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's really about bringing that family unity together to be there to help one another. Mm-hmm. I look at it this way: if we all wear the same patch and the same badge, and we're fighting the same battle, we need to be there to help each other. Right. So that's one of the things I really want to do in bringing that mindset to the administration.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of administrations, now what's your vision? What things are you wanting to do differently and change that will be different from the previous administration here in Washington County?
Well, right now, I think the Sheriff Newman's done a great job. There's a lot of good programs he's got in place, and I want to keep those going. You've got the Neighborhood Watch, you've got the Bike Patrol program, you've got the concealed handgun classes that he's not charging for. I mean, all these are good things, and want to keep that going. And really, it's kind of one of those things, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm not going to be one of these people to come in and flip the boat upside down and, oh, well, you don't like me, so you're fired. I mean, look at it this way. This is a professional organization. The sheriff's office has worked really hard to get and maintain state accreditation, and that is huge. The accountability that they have to the state, I think, is so important that we keep that state accreditation. We dot the I's, we cross the T's, we follow policy. Here's what we do, but we do it in such a way that we do take care of our people, and that's one of the things that everybody's going to have their own style of leadership. Mine is going to be different than Sheriff Newman's. Sheriff Newman's different than the previous sheriff. But I'm not going to come in and flip things upside down. And what I am going to do is I'm going to take the first month or two, just do a lot of evaluations, do a lot of assessments. Hey, are we working smarter rather than having to work harder? Are we doing all that we can to do the guys have all the equipment they need? Just simple things. What can we do to help the guys who are out there every day on the front line? And so I really think that there's not going to be a whole lot of differences in that, but there's going to be enough difference that I bring a fresh perspective to things. I see things a little differently, and so it's kind of hard to answer, because until we get in there and see, hey, if this is working great, don't mess with it. But can we do something better? Just a few little things, that I've told some of the guys that I've talked to, and personally, I like my goatee.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep my goatee. People say, well, that's not very professional. I'm like, look, you've got some agencies that have grooming policies.
Yeah.
And I'm all for being well kept and clean shaven and all that. But I look at it this way. This is just a different mindset. I've got some guys that, and we do it they do the No Shave November, right? Yeah. And they raise money for charity. I'm like, that's great. Mm-hmm. So let's do it year round.
It is great.
And they're like, really? So I've kind of mentioned that to a couple of guys. So this will probably get out now. Videos like, oh, cool. And so I look at it this way. For those, if they want to participate, and I'll have a policy in place that'll be, if you want a goatee, beard, something like that, we'll work that out. And it's just little things you think outside the box on.
Yeah.
What's going to make the job, I don't say easier, because this is a hard job.
Yeah.
But what's going to make the job more manageable? Are we looking at, are we getting the compensation that they need, the days off, all these things. So I think just sitting back, taking an evaluation of things, and see where we can tweak it and make it a little bit better. I get elected, I'm in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, whatever. The next sheriff comes in, they'll find things that I could have probably done better that they need to tweak.
Right.
And so it's constantly evolving. And it's not a critique of one administration or the other. But I think it's all about that mindset.
Well, perfect. And let's see. Let's talk about some issues here in Washington County. What do you consider to be the single most important issues facing law enforcement and the sheriff's department here in Washington County?
Oh goodness, I don't know if you could put one out there at the top. We have a huge raging epidemic of illegal drugs. We know that. We know that meth is being produced here. It's being brought in here. We know that there's a huge issue for the opioids, the pain pills that people are hooked on. All these things. So I think that's got to be one of the issues that has to be addressed, and it is being addressed. But again, different leadership, different administration, different mindset. We're looking at right now, I know, and I'm not even in office, but I know that there is a joint regional task force that's being put together, and that I fully support that, because this problem is bigger than Washington County. This problem is bigger than just the sheriff's office. This problem has to be addressed by our local agencies all around, our local and our state and our federal agencies. This has got to be, must be a joint effort. When you look at we've got 40 guys, 50 guys out on patrol, or the within the agency, you've got 100 guys, you got 100 people total in the sheriff. How are we going to combat an issue that is impacting thousands? So we need to work together on that local, state, and that federal level. So that's one of the ways we're looking at it. So one of the things about I would love to put together one of the most extensive educational outreach programs the county's ever seen, on educating people about whether it's drugs or whether it's suspicious persons, if it's burglary, robbery, whatever, things to look for. Because I look at it this way: the more that we can have the public to help us be the eyes and ears, the better we're able to respond. If we don't know it, we can't help. We can't fix anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Really.
Well, so look at it this way. Social media doesn't cost us a dime.
Yeah.
And right now, when you look at the millennial generation and Generation Z, and you look at where do most people reside, it's going to be on a cell phone or on a tablet. You'll have some within the television community, but your billboards and all that. I look at it this way: the more attention we can bring to the issue, the better we can combat the issue. And I think that's one of the things that is missing. We hear about it. Oh, well, we had this drug roundup, or we sent out so many indictments. Okay, that's great. But I'm talking about taking, not even this DARE program, but I'm talking about taking it to a level above and beyond anybody's ever seen. And I mean, really get a hold. I attended back in April. I took it upon myself to find out, to go to get the backing available to go to the National Prescription Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit in Atlanta, Georgia. I took my time. I went down there because I wanted to learn as much as I could from other state and national leaders, as much as I could collect as far as information, resources, contacts, and all that to bring back to Washington County. So that should let people know I'm very, very proactive. I'm not going to be one of these that just sit back and say, well, I wonder what will happen today. Right. We're not doing that. So I spent a week with people from around this nation. We even had President Trump and First Lady Trump to come in. They spoke to us on that Wednesday. And so to gain that kind of information and to bring that back to Washington County to say, look, not only do we have a drug problem, but we also have an underlying problem that we don't even address, and that are those who are trapped in addiction. How many families in Washington County are impacted by drug abuse and by addiction? I mean, it's crazy. And I'm thinking, okay, we've got all these wonderful resources available. I mean, you've got a great group with Highlands Community Services. You've got the Appalachian Substance Abuse Council. You've got DASH Ministry. You've got all of these ministries, faith-based, medical-based. You've got all this resource out here, but a lot of people don't know about it. Well, they hear about it. And so if you call me up and say, hey, look, Rex, man, you're the sheriff. I've got somebody in my family that's got some problems. Instead of me just pawning off, say, hey, no, look, sorry, I can't help you. Okay, I'm going to give you an answer. I'm going to give you a phone call. I'm going to give you a number. I'll give you if I have to call them myself and say, hey, look, this is who you need to talk to get your loved one some help. And it's connecting the resources together. And I think that's one of the things that is missing that I want to increase, and that's that open communication. If law enforcement is on the front line, then let's be on the front line. Not only of just enforcement of the laws, but be on the front line of communication and connecting the resources. And if people say, hey, you know what, this is a sheriff that's proactive and he's on top of it and he's reaching people, now we're going to make a difference. And if we can save that, I heard it said, if you treat the symptoms of addiction, you may save some and you're going to lose some. But if you treat the person that's in addiction, you're going to save them every time.
That's perfect, yeah.
Man, that's powerful.
It is.
That's the mindset we've got to have. We've got to be able to reach and get people the resources that they need. Now I'm not a medical counselor. I do trauma counseling, but I'm not a medical counselor. But we've got some well-trained people in this county that can help and do that. It's just a matter of plugging in the right information.
Using our resources effectively.
Absolutely. It's about working smarter, not harder. We don't need new programs. We need to use the people that we've got that's there, that's willing to help and willing to work with people who are trapped in addiction. So yeah, law enforcement, man, we're going to arrest the drug dealers. We need to. Yeah, we got to do that. We've got to arrest those who are hurting our people. But by the same token, we need to help those who've been hurt. That's why I'm a big proponent of the drug court program. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office has done a tremendous job, and that is huge. It's successful. It's at a cost savings to the public. I think if I remember right, it's about $22,000 for taxpayers to pay to house a person at the regional jail.
Wow.
Okay? It costs about $11,000 to put them through drug court.
Yeah.
So just from a business standpoint, and I've got my business management background, and I do private business. I've done it for the last few years, and it's because I think the sheriff needs to be at least a little bit business minded as well. Well, here's the thing: if I see that it's going to cost me half to take somebody out here who's, hey, you know what? Yeah, I made a mistake. I did something I shouldn't have, and that's their first time, and they meet the criteria. Then why put them up here in jail, let them sit for 6 or 12 months and do nothing with their life? Why not, hey, let's make sure they get a job. Let's put them through the program. Let's make it hard on them, but yet maintain that they are accountable. And, hey, we'll drug test them 2 or 3 times a night. And so that's what drug court does. It puts the responsibility and accountability on that offender to get their life back where it needs to be and make them a productive citizen of society. That's what it's about. Those are things that we need to really be promoting.
Right.
And I think if we can do that, then we're going to see much more of a positive influence.
Help families stay together, whereas when people are incarcerated, families can suffer. You're talking about the rehabilitation of these folks.
Exactly.
And that's a very good thing.
Well, exactly. You're going to have some very vile offenders that need to be locked up.
Yeah.
I get that, and we need that, absolutely. But I think there is a segment of that population that we can reach, and that we can have them make a difference. We can help make a difference in their lives.
Let's talk about some areas here in Washington County that you think are underserved. Maybe some areas of our county that need more attention from the sheriff. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that you tend to address needs and issues in your more populated areas, and we know from Bristol to Abingdon to Glade along the 81 corridor that draws a lot of our attention. As far as law enforcement goes, even when I was with state police here in the county, I know that those areas saw more police presence because more population, more calls. So what does that mean? That means that people in the other outer reaches of our county unfortunately get neglected. And that's just the way it is. You don't get, you may get a call over in Conrock or Mendota. You may go way on out past John Douglas Wayside. You may go up the valley, wherever. But that doesn't mean that people are any less important. And so one of the things that I want to do, we have this interstate enforcement program, and that's very valuable for the amount of revenue that it brings into the county to help fund our school resource officer positions and equipment and supplies. And so that's, but it's a huge effort for traffic enforcement and safety. And so one of the things I want to do is tweak that just a little bit. These are guys that are out there on their days off, and they're working some traffic enforcement and highway safety program. Okay, great. They're making some money to help pay the bills. Got no issue with that. But if they're out there for 8 hours or 10 hours, okay, well, do that for a couple hours, and then let's go and patrol some neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Take another hour and let's go and let's go over and check out what's happening in Mendota. Go down to the Mendota store. Great place, good food. Go down there and hang out. Take some time. Then go back to the interstate, work some more. So here we're actually supplementing and adding to our shift for those guys that are on their days off. I just want to be a little bit smart about what we do with them. You also have things that would help us. If we can get support from local businesses, say for example Walmart. Walmart calls a lot because of the shoplifting calls. Oh, yeah. And you saw the recent article, I'm sure, about that, and Sheriff Newman addressed that very well. And he's like, look, we get these calls all the time. Okay, well, my question then from being a business-minded person is, couldn't Walmart not step up and help a little bit there? Yeah. In that if they need law enforcement services that much, okay, what's their tax revenue? And could they not designate some of that tax revenue back to the county to help fund for another position? Yeah. Hey, if I've got a deputy that wants to earn some money on their day off, and let them go work a little security at Walmart. Hey, Walmart, help us pay the bill. Why put the burden on the taxpayer? You know, why do that? That doesn't make sense. If we're going to run all these calls, then let's be smart and work together. So that would alleviate some of the issues to allow the guys to be out in the county more. And that's just the way it is. We've got to respond to the calls as they come in. But one of the things I want to do is go back and reevaluate what is our patrol sectors. Can we work smarter there? Can we adjust the shifts so that way now we have some other coverage, or that do we need to overlap coverage a little bit? You know, what can we do? Do we got 2 shifts? Do we need 3? Do we need to break it up to where we? So these are just some questions to ask that would create some conversation. Say, okay, what can we do? You know, and I'm not going to have all the answers, you know. But what I am going to do is just like any smart leader would do. You sit down and what do? You talk to all your folks, and you take that input and you take that perspective. And you say, okay, all right, here's what I'm hearing from this supervisor. Here's what I'm hearing from this supervisor. And you gather around the table and say, okay, guys, what can we do to come up with a better solution? You know, because we need to make sure that we do not have neglected areas in our county. You know, a person is a person, and they're just as much as valued no matter where they live in the county. And that's just the way we got to look at it.
Awesome. Well, touching on that subject and bouncing off to another one, any opinions or ideas about protecting our schools? You know, I've talked to a lot of people in Abingdon specifically, and you know, we talked about Virginia Tech earlier, and we know about the tragedies that happen in our country. Do you have any ideas to be proactive to help defend our schools and our children?
Oh yeah, yeah. We are very fortunate to have school resource officers in every school. A lot of them are well trained. Some of them are even better trained because they're on our tactical teams, and so they've got more experience in dealing with situations like that. You know, I'd love to see every one of our school resource officers have more training time, not just on the range, but also on close quarter type situations, because that's what you're getting into. I'm not, you know, heaven forbid that it ever happens in Washington County, but I'm not going to be shooting at a target some 20, 30 yards away. I'm going to be in a classroom. I'm going to be in a hallway. And so I'm all about the more training our guys can get, the better off. And I am 100% for getting them that training, whatever we need to do. To work with the local academy to make that happen, that's what we'll do. But not only just on dealing with that physical threat, whether it's firearms, hands-on, or whatever, but also I'd love to see our school resource officers, I want to see them train more in trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care is something that we hear something about, but it is the most prevalent issue right now in our society when it comes to working with people, especially kids. You know, if we have a school resource officer that is trained to identify and interact with a school-aged child that is having some traumatic events at home. It could be domestic, it could be drugs, it could be a number of things. But to have that officer to be aware of, hey, I see this child, and this child's behavior is changing. There's some different things, and so I need to interact with this child a bit more. Hey, little Johnny, how's things at home? You know, notice, last couple of weeks you seem just a little, you know, is there something I can help you with? And hey, let's just sit down and talk a little bit, and that school resource officer becomes that immediate point of contact and care for that person, for that young person. And man, that makes a difference, you know, to develop that rapport and to have that child's trust that they can say, you know what, yeah, there's some things going on at home and whatever it may be. And then also say, okay, well, let's make this call. Let's get you help here. Let's go here. Because I really think that we're letting too many kids slip through the cracks. Yeah. And if a kid is coming from a home that is a broken home where there's drugs and abuse and all that is prevalent, what are we seeing? You go back and look at all the school shooters that we've had in this country, and you start looking at the common denominators about where, you know, there's not a father figure in the picture. You're looking at mental health issues and all that, and we're letting kids fall through the cracks. And we're seeing these kids come back later with guns and killing other kids. And I'm not saying that trauma-informed care training is going to save everyone, to stop everything. We live in an evil society, unfortunately. We have to respond to that. But if we can have our school resource officers better trained to identify kids who may have certain needs that we can address, then we're the better off. I do a lot of martial arts training, and I've put out there, look, if I have a school teacher that wants to learn how to defend themselves, call me up. I'll teach you. You don't have to pay a dime. I will put forth the time and effort to help train you. If you just, I had a question the other day. Lady asked me at a meeting. She said, "So are you for arming our teachers?" I was like, I'd at least like to give them the option. And if you're a teacher and you don't feel comfortable, no problem. But if you're a teacher and say, hey, you know what, I've handled firearms and I like to have some tactical training and I'll be glad to protect our kids in that manner, then I'm all for it. Let's have at it. What can we do to protect our kids? And if it means that we're, now, I understand with liability and the school system, I don't know that would ever go through. I don't know. But I'd at least like to give them the option.
Right.
But there are all sorts of tools that are out there. I say tools. There are all sorts of equipment that you can implement into a classroom to barricade a door, to do active shooter training, or we say active shooter. It doesn't have to be shooting. Active shooting or active shooter is a term that is about to go by the wayside. The new term that's now floating around among law enforcement ranks is active killing. But we see that guns are prevalent in killings in America. I won't get into all the gun control issues and all that. We talk for days on that. But back to the schools, yes, we need to make sure that our teachers and our school resource officers are as well trained, and especially the teachers and the staff, if they choose to be, then hey, that's what we want to do. The one program that I want to put in place that is a communications-based program is Handle with Care. That kind of piggybacks off of this other one. Handle with Care is simply a communication from the sheriff's office to the school to say, hey, you know what? This child had some type of interaction with law enforcement. We may want to pay a little bit more attention. Let's help this child through the next school day. If little Johnny just saw mommy or daddy get arrested the night before on a Monday night, or the police came in and executed a search warrant, and little John, do you think little Johnny's going to be paying attention to math class the next day? Probably not. So we need to handle Johnny with a little bit more care, to help him out here and provide resources if we can.
You've heard about the courthouse situation,
right?
And the sheriff's department has a lot of work with the courthouse.
Absolutely.
What are your opinions and thoughts about it? What do you think needs to be done? Just whatever about the courthouse. What do you think in the future?
Yeah, in my last communication with some of the board of supervisor members and what I've expressed from just being a tax-paying citizen in the county, they're looking at three options. And so one of the options, or the first two options to me, I think increases their tax rate. And the price tag on those projects are like $90 million or so. I mean, it's crazy to renovate or to remodel or to buy something on Main Street. And I'm like, look, the courthouse on Main Street has served its purpose. It's done well, but I think it's time that we need to be a little bit more progressive. And let's keep that courthouse on Main Street. Let's turn it into some meeting rooms or tourism or a historical site. That's great, and I'd love for it. Let's maintain it as a historical site, preserve it because it is our history. But the third option about buying the Kmart building over off of Exit 17, that's fabulous. You've got half the price. You're looking at a little over $43 million. Does not increase our taxes at all. The tax rate does not go up. You've got 300 spaces for parking. In fact, it meets, or actually it exceeds the square footage that is needed. Like I said, I've got a little bit of business background, and to me that makes sense. If it makes sense, maybe we ought to do that. Maybe we ought to investigate that. I know there's going to be some logistics to look at. I know all the details need to be worked out. But just from the get-go, if you give me those three options of either remodel, renovate, or let's move it, I'm all for moving it, keeping it there in the town. It's still in Abingdon. You look at the access you have. And here's another thing. How much would it help the local businesses right around that area? If you have a courthouse and you're staffed with X number of people, and on court day you have 300 parking spots and you have 200 of those filled up, well, guess what? You get hungry. And if you've just been in court all day and you're hungry, and here you are at McDonald's or Taco Bell or Shoney's or Arby's or whatever, guess what? You're going to get something to eat. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm a local business there that thrives off of increased traffic, I would want the courthouse to be right up on the hill behind me.
Absolutely.
I mean, to me, that just makes sense.
It does.
So I hope that the county would look at that. I mean, that's just my view on it, and if it makes sense and it saves us money, then why not? Yeah, we do. We need to utilize what we have, and there's nothing wrong with supplementing what we have with more training. You know, there's a tremendous push, and I'm all for getting our deputies trained in how do you properly work with people in a mental health crisis. You know, it is so important on knowing how to assess a situation and then how to interact with a person who is in crisis. You know, you have to handle somebody who is in a mental health crisis episode, for example. If it's somebody who is just, you know, maybe they've been off their medication, you know, something, and so you really need to know how to cautiously yet safely handle that person. You're not going to handle them like you would somebody else out here on the road. And so to be able to distinguish the difference. The guys have been trained, they've got some good training already, but I want to make sure that we're still pushing that. You know, I want all the deputies to go home safe. And we know that when you're dealing with somebody who may have some mental health issues, maybe 99% of the time everything goes well. You get them the treatment, you get them the help, you take them where they need to go, and everything works. But sometimes there's that 1% where things can turn, you know, very rough, very quick, and so then we have to know. All right, then we have to handle things a little differently, and that's the hard part of this job, you know, is that to make that split-second decision that's going to have an impact for weeks, months, and years later. And to make that decision that you save a life, you help a life, you help somebody, you know, or heaven forbid, you know, you're in a situation where you may have to take someone's life because they're trying to take yours, and that's a huge responsibility on our law enforcement agencies, and I think that really shows that it's a dangerous job. We know that it is, but it's a job that really needs that community support, and because this is not a job that everybody can do. Not everybody wants to do it. We've seen recruitment numbers drop over the last several years, but we've got a great group of guys, the men and women in the sheriff's office. They're fantastic. They're doing a great job. We just need to take things in a fresh direction, and we do it with excitement, and we do it with professionalism, and we do it with integrity and character that's deserving of the position. You can find out all about me. RexCarterForSheriff.com. We've got a tremendous website up. It's great. The folks who've designed it for us, they've done a fantastic job. We push a lot of our content out. We've done so since back in December. You want to know anything about what I'm running for, what I'm standing for, hopefully this interview will help a lot of folks. But Facebook, Rex Carter for Sheriff 2019 on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn. You just go into search, you can find us. We've got all of our content out there, our videos, information about the campaign, even on our website. You can go back and watch some of our early videos on that. We've got a YouTube channel as well on the Rex Carter for Sheriff. So we're very transparent. You know, I've said from the beginning, I want people to know who we are and what we stand for, so that way there's no question. You know, you may not know my face, that's fine. You know, they do now. There you go, gorgeous mug of mine. That's great. But know the name. There you go. And but really, come November 5th, you know, I want folks to be educated. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I appreciate you putting the information out there because now I know more about what you stand for." You know, we're in the 14th largest county in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so with that, you know, we're at 54,000 people in the county. It's going to be hard to reach everybody, but I like this aspect of social media. It lets people know, and hey, look, you can Facebook message me, you can email me. If somebody has specific questions, I don't care, reach out to me. I'll give you an answer, and usually I'm pretty quick on responding as well. And that's the same thing I carry into the sheriff's position. You know, you need to talk to me, call me, you know. I want to be as accessible as possible because the sheriff is the sheriff may be the lead law enforcement person in the county next to the Commonwealth Attorney. But bottom line is that the sheriff is a servant of the people. And that's it. It's not, the sheriff does not lord over the people. The sheriff does not, no, the sheriff and the sheriff's office were servants of the people. We're here to help people. So yeah, November 5th, show us some love, give us some love. I will tell you this, make sure you're registered to vote. Where you live, and make sure that address matches up with what's on your voter registration card. You can call Derek Lyle over at the Department of Elections, right there across from the Higher Ed Center in the county government building. Call them up, go by, see them. In fact, you can even register online. It takes about 5 minutes. You can go to the Virginia Department of Elections, about register. You can check your status. So it's very, very easy. October 15th is the deadline to make sure you're registered to vote for the November 5th general election. So we need everybody to make sure. And if you've never voted before, let me say this: if you've never voted before, I would beg you, I would plead with you, do your civic duty and step up and do what you need to do, and that is to vote. Let your voice be heard. I look at it this way: my background in ministry, I tell all the folks in church, I said, look, I said, it is your patriotic duty to vote, but it's your responsibility to let your voice be heard. Yeah. And so I think that has got to resonate with people. I really want to push that. Get registered to vote. Get out. Support us. Help us on November the 5th. Spread the word. Share the videos. Get on our Facebook. Any of our posts. Share them. Comment. Let me know what you think. And I think that that's serving us well, because it just shows this is how serious we are about being as transparent as we can to get the information out. I'm Rex Carter, and I'm running for sheriff. I would love your vote on November the 5th.